So you're doing a Fox News. We're going to take a quick interlude here. You're doing a Fox News spot later, and I feel like I could kind of help the cause by preparing you for some of the stuff they're going to fire at you. You know, I'm sure you've seen it all bbefore, but why not? Why not? You
I
know,
like being challenged. I think that's important.
I really want to help out too. I'll play the role of the Fox News guy. I would, if I had a stick nearby, I would shove it up my butt just so I could get into character.
I
Really
appreciate
good
that
for
a
you.
lot.
Yeah, I'm for the cause. But you know, you seem to want a lot of entitlements here. How are we going to pay for that? Over to you.
How we're going to pay for it is probably, I know most people would say this is anathema to put out there, but it's actually one of my favorite questions. We never asked how we were going to pay for the trillions of dollars in war in the Middle East. Nobody ever asked when we increased the military budget how we were going to pay for that. And nobody asked how we're going to pay for this military parade. I mean, we have a ton of opportunities to transition how it is we spend our tax dollars, because the fact is we have this economy based on war and violence that no one bats an eye at when we spend billions of dollars in. But when you want to put that money into the working people, when you want to put that money into building up people's lives, that's when we start to question how we're going to pay for it. And I mean, we have a number of different ways. A lot of them, especially something like the federal jobs guarantee, kind of ties in with some modern monetary theory, but we have options as well inside of that too. We have Medicare for all. We talked about, you see, oh, it's going to cost $33 trillion. Well, our current healthcare system costs $47 trillion. So Medicare for all is actually going to save us multiple trillions of dollars. Was it 14 trillion? I'm bad at math.
Even the Koch brothers admit it.
Exactly.
The Koch brothers admit it.
Exactly. And you want to know what you can do with that $14 million in savings? You can transition that into things like the $4.6 trillion we need to invest in infrastructure. You can use that to pay for the $1.6 trillion student debt bubble that's getting bigger every single day. You can use that to invest in green energy. I mean, we cut oil subsidies and we return that money back into the people. We cut corn subsidies and we return that money back into the people. We can reinvest it into green farming methods. We can reinvest it into small farmers that need help right now because of Trump's ridiculous tariffs. When we talk about debt-free education and student debt relief, there's the Wall Street speculative tax. The Robin Hood tax is what the slang term was. And Bernie Sanders pitched this on his presidential trail, and now everyone was talking about it and buzzing about it. And now no one's saying a word. It's 0.2%. So it's 0.2 cents for every dollar traded on Wall Street. And that would generate approximately $370 billion every single year. And do you want to know how much it would cost to pay for everybody's college and technical school and vocational school? It would cost $75 billion, which would leave us a little over $260 billion every year to do things like start chipping away at that student debt bubble if we need to invest in government-run childcare, to invest back into our K-12 education system, to pay for things like mandatory paid maternity leave or paternity leave and family leave. I mean, there's tons of ways that we can pay for these things, but everyone acts like it's impossible to implement any of them because everyone's afraid to talk about them. But it's not a matter of how we're going to pay for them. It's a matter of actually doing it. We already know how we're going to pay for them. We just have to do it.
Right on. So I appreciate you bring. Oh, I'm not in Fox News character now. I'll get back there in a minute. But I appreciate you bringing up. I appreciate you bringing up farming, because I do think food culture is something a lot of people don't talk about just because it's something that gets overlooked, but it is so connected to so many other issues.
Oh, yeah.
And I really do. I mean, hey, my first EP was called Hippies, Dead Air, and Crop Shares. So, you know, I mean, I'm still in many ways a heartland hippie, but yeah, so I do appreciate you bringing that up. So getting back to the Fox News character briefly, then we'll go back to viewer questions. Blah, 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 word salad, vomit, diarrhea, Venezuela. Run with it.
Venezuela. So there's a key difference to remember too with something like democratic socialism versus what happened in Venezuela. Venezuela was hit by a bunch of different sanctions from the United States. Same with Cuba. They were hit with tons of sanctions. And because we are such a terrifying military threat, most of the world followed suit and did the same. So that actually stopped Venezuela from building up any kind of economy. And it wasn't really able to be a player in the world economic stage. And so, of course, it collapsed in on itself. Any country under any kind of government would have collapsed in on itself. It doesn't matter that it was socialism. It's just convenient to throw that word out there and say that's the cause. But that's just patently untrue. It's just false. So democratic socialism is really important because it's democratically implementing socialist policies that based on what the people want. in a constitutional way. So it makes sure representatives are voting specifically on what people have stated they want when they're out in the communities and how people vote. And that's one of the key differences to remember. Something like over 90% of Americans want legalized cannabis. That's something, or I'm sorry, 60% of people want legalized cannabis, but that's both sides of the aisle. That's Republicans and Democrats. I think it's over 70% of Americans want single payer Medicare for all. I can tell you probably over 85% of people want debt-free college education and student debt relief. I mean, these are policies people have said that they want for years. And democratic socialism says, okay, that's what the people want. That's what we're going to give them. That's what we're going to put into place. That's what we're going to fight for. It's the government's obligation to care for these people and give them the best quality of life we possibly can.
Awesome. So we got some viewer questions here coming in. And yeah, I mean, it's just such a null and void comparison that like anyone can just shut down and be like, look, it was an under-resourced developing place. I mean, exactly. you're just grasping for straws at a comparison.
It's a straw man. That's all it is.
You think that's going to get thrown at you tonight? I bet it is.
Oh, for sure it is. I'm totally used to the socialism question at this point. Yeah. I'm like, if it's socialism to think that we live in such a wealthy country that every person should be able to go to the doctor and nobody should have to die from a preventable illness, then fine. I guess I'm a socialist.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your